My Wellish sisters, I cooked up such a good episode for you today. This one is so powerful. I have literally so much faith that this is going to be so impactful for you and so transformational for you. So you're not going to want to miss a single minute of it. Let me take a guess at your mentality right now. You are so afraid that if you release control and just surrender, that you'll never actually achieve anything that you want to achieve. I see you, I was you, and I still am you sometimes. But I'm learning that the truth is, when you stop forcing things, when you stop trying to make things happen and control your way through absolutely everything, life starts to get a lot better and the universe starts to be able to reach you a lot easier. And if just for a moment you can be open to the potential that experimenting with the idea of possibly maybe letting go of hyper control would allow more achievement to come into your life than you chasing desperately to achieve it, efforting and using all of this force. If you can be open to the possibility that letting go of that could maybe potentially be true, remove your tongue from the roof of your mouth, lower your shoulders away from your fucking earlobes, loosen up your jaw, like stop clenching that shit so hard, and just think for a moment about what that would feel like if that could be true. Do you not feel an instant rush of relief? Because literally every single time, the more and more I believe this to be true, that I believe that I don't have to force myself through my life, the better I feel. And then when I start to feel that way again, and I remember that this could possibly be true, it instantly brings a wash, a wave of relaxation and relief through me. And I feel like I can actually enjoy myself and my life and the moment that I'm in. It's the times in my life that I'm desperately trying to make things make sense, that I'm trying to make things work, that I'm clinging to something that just isn't right for me. And I'm not even consciously aware of it when that is happening. But when I'm in those spaces in my life, when I look back on the times that that is what I was experiencing in my life, I was creating signs that I was on the right path. I wasn't just allowing those signs to prosper. I wasn't listening to the intuitive signs that really I do know happen. When I look back and I do remember thoughts popping into my head and signs that showed up that made me know, that were trying to let me know that I was not in the right space. But I didn't listen to those. I was creating my own, looking for my own signs that I was on the right path and things were making sense. I've done this in several different circumstances in several different parts of my life. And every single time, it's me trying to force a reality that I want instead of just allowing the reality to come into my life that will actually genuinely make me feel fulfilled. Because if I allow surrender, that's when I will receive the reality that actually fulfills me, that actually makes me feel good. I won't have to work so hard for it. It's when I finally fucking accepted that whatever's going to happen is what's going to happen. And there's nothing that I can do to alter that path. So I just get to sit back and watch how it plays out. And when I allow myself to sit back and surrender to what's happening and accept what's happening in my life in these big ways, is when I start to hear the whispers of my intuition, when I start to actually feel like I am safe enough to be patient, to allow the path to play out how it's meant to play out. And by remaining open, that's when I started to hear the intuition. That's when I started to hear the actual whispers that allowed me to take inspired action so I can follow that path with ease. I finally realized that you cannot chase these synchronicities. You cannot grab them and force them to fit into whatever narrative it is that you're trying so desperately to create, because you want this reality to be real so badly that you aren't allowing yourself to be in this open, receiving energy that will allow you to receive the guidance that you need in order to create the life that's really meant for you. And that's the mindset that I want to talk to you guys about today, because it's such a happier, more peaceful, more enjoyable place to live in, because you feel so much more in alignment with your higher self. You're not just wishing and wanting and trying to live in alignment as best as you can, but you still don't feel like that version. It's not like that. You genuinely feel like that person, like you're living as her when you are able to get into this mindset. I feel closer and more in alignment with my highest self than I literally ever have in my entire life. And so I would not be being a good friend if I didn't help you guys get into this mindset too. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Make sure to do your due diligence before we get into the episode. Be kind, do your acts of service, do your one good deed this week, and make sure to rate and review the show so that people that are like minded to you can also find Wellish. Rating and reviewing the show is what really helps push the show out to other Wellish sisters like us that all want to be Wellish together. We all want to accomplish that same goal. So help other people find the show as well. And then, of course, you have to do right by you as well and subscribe to Wellish so that you do not miss an episode. I want to start by talking about the difference between receiving and control, which seems obvious, but this is where a lot of us fuck this up. And so I want you to take a moment to think about your own life. I created a list of examples to help engage your mind, to help you think of areas in your own life that you are doing one of these two things. So take a moment, close your eyes if it helps you focus more. We're going to think about your own life, and I'm going to read to you off of my list because as I was writing things down on this list, guys, I literally was like blowing my own motherfucking mind with the things that we don't realize are out of our control and the things we don't realize are in our control. It's crazy. So, first, we're going to start by thinking about the things that shape your life that are out of your control. These life shaping things that are actually not in our control. What schools you went to growing up. We're thinking about the town you lived in. We're thinking about the parents you were raised by, your parents' choices while they were raising you that shaped your worldview, the teachers you had, the friends that also happened to live in the same neighborhood and go to the same school that shaped your experiences in a very specific way, that your job accepted you for the position, that your significant other was also in that same place at that same time, that it didn't work out with your significant other and you had to start over, that your specific apartment was available at the exact time you needed it and it was in your price range, the neighborhood that you live in that said apartment, who lives near you in the apartment complex or in your neighborhood, or what neighbors you have. What do you have access to in your neighborhood? The stores you go to, the restaurants that you're at, where you're at in relation to your friends or family or activities that you like to enjoy. There's a lot of examples in there that you might think are in your control, but these big life shaping things, these are just a few examples of the big life shaping things that really are out of your control. You just accept them as they come into your life. Are you realizing now that we have a lot less control than we really think we do? So now let's get into the things that we can control, that you do have control over. How much effort you gave in school or at your job, what activities you participated in the town you grew up in as a kid, or what activities you participate in now, how you decorated your room, how you decorate your home, what clothes you wore to school, what clothes you wear to work, what clothes you wear to go out with your friends, the relationship that you have with your parents, what lessons you choose to live by and the ones you choose to let go of, the company you decide to keep, what jobs you apply for, the experience that you build for jobs, saying yes to the date or initiating the date with this new person you've never met before. That when they left, you handled it with self respect, dignity, and grace and left without ever looking back. That you applied for apartments you liked in areas you liked that were in your price range. That you didn't settle for things that were less than you deserved. That you go to new places and talk to new people and explore the area around you. That you can put yourself out there and try to gain new experiences as often as you can. Our lives are a mix of both things that we can and can't control. The major life shapers are the things that are out of our control. That are things that we have to just surrender and accept into our life. But then the things that we can control are our everyday life experiences, are the little things that we do on a day-to-day basis that shape how we live our life and how we view our life and how we experience our life. most of the time, our frantic focus is on controlling the big life shaping things. We think that if we can create these realities, that we can make these big life shaping things happen, that then our day to day will be magical. But we do it the opposite, because as soon as we hustle our way into creating this life shaping reality for ourselves, then our day to day will be magical, won't it? But that's never how it's worked out. Ever. For anybody. Anybody that's achieved a shit ton of stuff. Their life still isn't good enough if they have not solved it on the inside. But we do it in the wrong order, because we think if we create through achievement this life shaping reality, this wonderful reality that we want to have, that our day to day will be magical. Yes? But that's not how it works. We've heard from way too many people that have all of the dreams and goals that we want to have. They have all of the money, they have the big houses. We know that these people go off the rails if they don't do the inner work, if they don't allow themselves to only control the day to day to make that as meaningful as possible for them. When we leave the life shaping stuff up to fate, when we leave the life shaping stuff up to the, if you believe in like a higher power, God, the universe, your higher self, like if you leave it up to that and just focus all of your energy on making your day to day, the things that you can control, as wonderful and magical as possible, then you will notice that your life shapings start to go in the direction that you want them to go, because the universe or whatever doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. And that's not a woo woo thing. Like, think about the way you feel. Think about the way you feel inside of your body on a day to day basis when you're full of pressure and trying to make things happen. And when you still don't have things yet and you're thinking from a place of lack and you wish things were different and you want things so badly. Whether you're actively pushing yourself to get there or you're in a victim mindset and don't understand why you can't have it yet, whatever, it doesn't feel good. You can picture how that feels compared to when you're in a mindset of presence, when you're romanticizing your day, when you're making the most out of your experience, when you're just sitting back and relaxing and enjoying what your life is right now in this moment. And if you don't like anything in your life, taking small inspired action to make today better, to make this hour better, not to make this whole grandiose out into the universe, out into the ether moment happen, but just to focus on your day to day and what it would take to make that feel better. And I have to say in this moment too, that the motivation to focus on the everyday stuff, because like when I hear that, when that hits my ear, I think like that sucks, because I want to be able to control these life shaping realities for myself. Like, I don't want to just focus on the day to day. I want grandiosity. I want this magic and glitz and glamour and wonderful lifeness to happen to me. You want all of the things that we are constantly inundated with. So, the thing that helps motivate me into focusing on the everyday aspects of life is like that's where the instant gratification lives. Like, that's where we can do things that will make us feel better and satiate us and give us like a dopamine hit right in that moment, right? Like, you have the ability to do that right today in this moment, and then allowing the life shaping things to be where you give patience to, because the life shaping things are not immediate and you're not going to recognize them. Like, I'm sorry, but you're not. And I just have to make that so clear, because I felt like that for so long, that I was going to recognize this major difference, and you're not. It's like watching a child grow into an adult. It's gradual, and you only notice the life-shaping differences when you have this moment that all of a sudden you're looking back and allowing yourself to notice it. Again, just like a child growing into an adult. One day, your 27-year-old daughter is calling you on the phone while she's walking through the Marianos and making a sex joke about whipped cream. And you can't help but think, it was just yesterday that you were at the end of my driveway doing a lemonade stand and creating dances in the yard. Like, what happened? When did you grow up? And that's exactly the same thing. You're not going to witness this transformational, life shaping shift. You're going to notice it one day after it happens, when something triggers you to look back on it and notice it. It's not going to be a threshold that you cross, it's not going to be a destination that you feel and see. You're just going to be like, huh, I handled that differently. Huh, things look different now. Wow, my life looks different than it did last year. So, how do we shift into this receiving mindset so that we can actually start recognizing when guidance is being given to us and being able to start following and listening to that guidance. The first step that literally cannot be skipped, and it is so looked over because you just think, yeah, I got that already. Yeah, no big deal. But really, genuinely, on like a soul level, getting really connected with yourself, like building a true, genuine, deep friendship with yourself, understanding how to actually genuinely trust yourself, unconditionally knowing your worth, unconditionally loving yourself. Like those things are the first step. Like that is the most important step that's going to allow you to start to shift into this mindset. And you cannot progress forward without actually authentically, genuinely to your core doing those things. And me saying all of those words are said in an effort to bring up any questioning of yourself. That if I'm saying that and you say, is that me? It's probably that you have to develop that friendship with yourself even more because you know when you have done it. If you had asked me a year ago, I would have absolutely said that I had. I would have 100% said that I totally loved myself and I loved myself unconditionally and all of these things. And I genuinely didn't understand what that was until now. Like now I know in my core that I feel those things. So if there's any piece of you, even in the back of your mind, subconsciously, that makes you go, you still have to work on it farther. Again, it's part of the patience. This takes time. You do this by doing something every single day that connects you with you. Even if it's 5 minutes, you just do something every day that authentically connects you with yourself. So this could look like movement. It could be running. It could be going for a walk. It could be lifting. It could be dancing. It could be golfing. It could be anything that like you genuinely feel your body, you feel connected to you. Maybe it's sitting down and reading a book. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's doing something creative. Maybe it's smoking a joint and sitting outside if that works for you. But it's anything that makes you buzz. It's anything that makes you feel proud of yourself and makes you feel lighter and makes you feel really good about who you are. Getting connected to yourself also means being able to self soothe, like recognizing when your nervous system is dysregulated and being able to bring it back to regulation. It's noticing your emotion spikes that you experience on a day to day basis and building your resilience, being able to bring those emotional spikes back to neutral again. It's about quitting the self rejection and being compassionate and curious and gentle and open with yourself. That's all part one. That's all what you have to do to start this process at all. And that takes time. That could take a year. It could take years, plural. It depends on how committed you are and how I'm hesitant to say committed you are because, it kind of puts us back into that hustle culture mentality. Like, especially with like the way our good enough wound is that we're very much like perfection. Like I can make this happen. I'm capable of achieving this thing. So so you don't add more to that wound. But I say committed you are in the sense that like you have to be willing to really believe in this and willing to really work on this and recognize this and show up for yourself as much as possible without creating excuses for yourself. So once you get through this piece of it, and maybe a little bit while you're going through it, but you start to hear your intuition more. And you have to start to listen to it with intention in order to get good at listening to your intuition. Because it's not just about listening to your intuition, but actually following through with what your intuition says. In situations in the past where I was still very much in a self abandonment mentality, I absolutely 100% listened to my intuition. I heard her. I heard her yelling at me, yapping at me. I heard her saying the things. And maybe I would like put up a thing about it in the moment, like in whatever situation I was in by like, beating a dead horse or talking about something out loud or evading or avoiding something or trying to make sense of it and justifying things. I did those things, but it was never that I just genuinely listened to what my intuition was telling me and acted what she said, like trusting her and listening to her and going with what she said in order for it to fit into the narrative that I wanted instead of just allowing life to shape itself, because that's what listening to her would have done. And to give some grace, I mean, it is scary to do that, but you have to be brave enough to actually hear her. So in order to start to build that skill, you have to do it with intention. So sometimes I do this by when I feel my emotions spike, or I feel my thoughts spike, or I feel myself like inching towards a spiral, or I'm ruminating on something. I remember to take a step back and say, okay, intuition, like, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to know here? And every single time, I get an answer right away. And then I follow that answer. Maybe my head is saying something different, but I don't care. I listen to whatever gut first answer comes up right away. And every single time, at least by the end of the day, like 99% of the time by the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, that was the right call. I made the right choice. And if it's not by the end of the day, it's very soon after that I realized that my intuition was right and I did the right thing. Another way to intentionally listen to your intuition is by doing so radically. The other day, I was going to the mall with my friend and I was packing my purse to get ready to go. And I saw my AirPods sitting on the table. And I was like, well, I don't need those because I'm going to be with my friend. And if I'm not with her, I'm going to be in the car so I can listen to whatever I need to listen to when I'm in the car. And so I like start to walk away. And then I was like, "Ah, whatever. My intuition drew my attention to the AirPods. I thought that to myself, so I'm just going to grab them because how many times have I been in situations that, maybe the person's running late, or maybe I get stuck somewhere, or maybe my car breaks down on the side of the road and I want to work on something on my phone and I don't want my phone blaring out into the world and I wish I had my AirPods. So fuck it, I'm just going to grab them. My intuition is telling me to grab them, so I grabbed them and I put them in my purse. Now, did I use them that circumstance like that time? No, I didn't, but I just radically listened to my intuition. So I'm building that habit by any time I hear something like that, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to listen to it. And I'm not going to let logic talk me out of it. I've got some other things you can try, like journaling without an agenda, like opening your journal, grabbing your pen, and sitting in front of the blank page and just saying, what is it that I need to know? What's trying to reach me right now? And see what flows. And I think a really good way to do this is by having a set number of pages. Personally, for me, I like 3 pages because it allows you to think more and more and more. Like you get more out of your intuition out of your brain when you give yourself an allotted set of pages that you have to get through. And 3, for me, allows me to get enough out that I'm like actually making strides, that I'm actually getting things out that I'm not expecting, and getting to the point that I'm like, okay, for the love of God, I'm done writing. And a lot of the time, how I feel by the time I get to the end of the 3rd page is I am so like amped up then to take inspired action. You got to stop blocking your thoughts because you're afraid of them. Like, go for a walk without your headphones and just like being open in the space and allowing your thoughts to be there and observing where it is they go. Do your dishes without having the TV on. Stop filling your life with meaningless stuff and like things to do and people to talk to, and talking to people on the phone, or like asking other people's opinions, or scrolling on TikTok, or like doing whatever you got to do in order to distract yourself because you're so not comfortable inside of your own mind. And if that's the case, go back to step 1 and build a connection and a friendship with yourself, because you haven't finished doing that yet if you're in this space. When you wake up, say to yourself, show me what I need to see today. And then you just live throughout your day. And then when something happens, you're going to know. You're going to be like, oh, that's it. That's the thing that I needed to know today. And when you start your day like that and then you let it go, you intuitively will recognize the things that you need to see. When you stay present instead of seeking proof, you can hear your intuition so much better. Because being calm and curious attracts so much more clarity than hustling for all of the answers. So once you start intentionally paying attention to your intuition and listening to your intuition radically, you can start to recognize how your intuition communicates with you so that you recognize it unintentionally, so that you can just start to live your life by way of your intuition. And let me tell you, sister, it does not communicate through logic. She'll try to convince you that she's communicating through logic. That's not your intuition. That is your brain. That is logic. That is everything that you've been taught. That is all of the perceptions that have been given to you. That is society's expectations. That is generational thinking, generational trauma, however you want to think about it. That is not your intuition. That is not your inner wisdom. That's everything that has been fed into your head. That's your logic, okay? We're not talking about your logic. We're talking about your intuition. And your intuition communicates through energy, sensation, and pattern. So I want to talk about each one of those things and what that really looks like. Everybody experiences this a little bit differently. Some people see things, some people hear things, but the most common thing is that people feel things. That's how I experience intuition personally. Like, if I intuitively know something, it's not going to be in my head. Intuition is not in your head, as I was just ranting about. It's going to be a feeling that you feel inside of your body. So for me, I feel my intuition in my chest, in my upper like throat and heart, like across the front of my shoulders. I feel it there. And when I think about whether I was intentionally asking myself like or my intuition questions, or I something happens and I respond intuitively, I remember the feeling. Like, I can feel it right now, what it feels like when I'm hearing my intuition, and it's in my chest and it's across my shoulders. Another way your intuition communicates with you is by pulling you in a specific direction, like when my eyes were pulled to my AirPods, or if I'm reading something and my eyes are drawn to certain words on the paper, or certain words on a sign, or certain numbers as I pass, like when we recognize angel numbers, and for whatever reason, we're just drawn to look at the gas station sign or the person's license plate or the numbers on the side of a truck. For whatever reason, for no reason at all, we're just pulled in that direction, and we look at it and we see it and we recognize it. Maybe you're pulled to a certain job listing or to walk into a certain restaurant. That's all your intuition. Your intuition is found in patterns. Like when you keep hearing the same theme over and over and over again. You're reading the book and you hear something that reminds you of it. You're watching a movie and someone says something that has to do with that same idea. Somebody in your life says something to you that makes you go, holy shit, I was just talking about that, or I was just thinking about that. Maybe a TikTok tarot reader shows up and she says something that's just like totally in alignment with what you're thinking. I don't think that that's an accident. Those are patterns. And it's not a woo woo thing. It's that your intuition is speaking with you, it's communicating with you, it's recognizing those things over and over and over again because it's trying to tell you something. And when you recognize it, but what we do is pretend like we didn't just recognize it. We do it subconsciously. Like, you might recognize it, and if it's not something that aligns with your narrative that you are trying to force into your life through control, you just shove it away and pretend like that didn't happen, or you make an excuse for it and you apply logic to it, and poof, there you go. Now you don't have to listen to it anymore. It goes away just as fast as it came. It's you choosing to acknowledge the recognition is what matters the most. I've said it 1,000 times, but I have to beat it into your head because I needed it beaten into mine. And it took way too long and way too much pain and way too much heartbreak in order for me to understand the fact that you cannot logic your way into intuition. You listen to it, you listen your way there, and you cannot be afraid of what it tells you. You have to be brave enough to allow the big life shapers to happen and know that you have the power to make the most out of those big life shapers. And here's the other problem, and you might be feeling it right in this moment as we're talking about it, is skepticism. And it's so easy to give in to the skepticism because it makes so much logical sense that we can do more to create the life that we want, to create this ideal, life shaping, wonderful life. I mean, we're fed that mentality because it keeps capitalism going. The harder you work, the more you'll achieve, and the more you contribute to the economy. But go to a different podcast for something like that. We're not going to get into all of that now. But my point is just that, like, you were fed this narrative, and because it logically makes sense that we would be able to do something like that, but that's not how it works. And I'll tell you why it doesn't work, because if it did, what would your life look like right now? Exactly. You thought of something. You 100% just thought of something that you think would be nice to have right now, and you don't, because you can't control all of those things. You have to just let life play out however it's meant to play out and do the most with what you're given. That's not to say you can't move yourself in the direction of the things that you want, but you have to do it through inspired action. You have to do it through intuition. You have to do it through trust in that what is meant for you will be yours and is on its way to you. And that there's nothing more that you can do than that you do with what you have. And how can we even fault each other for the cynicism when we've just experienced so much disappointment, Like, and our brains are just so wired to focus so heavily on all of the times in our life that we were disappointed and we did experience pain and things didn't work out the way that we wanted them to. We can't even barely see all of the goodness in our life because we're so laser focused in on all of the disappointing things. So it feels completely impossible that this could be true because all we feel is disappointment. But that's what skepticism is. It's self protection. It's doing everything that we can to control so that we don't feel the pain again. So that control comes from a place of anxiety. Like anytime you witness anybody trying to control anything, yourself included, it is them coming from an anxious place. It is them trying to prevent any pain from happening. It's trying to prevent any bad things from happening because if we can control how things play out, then we won't get hurt. Skepticism is self protection. We avoid vulnerability by being in control of everything. But believing the synchronicities isn't about being naive. It's about being self aware enough to recognize meaning in things that you once just saw as completely random. Skepticism is what happens when your intuition has been gaslit by your disappointment. And being able to gaslight yourself has been one of the most eye-opening, mind-blowing realizations that I have ever had. I learned that a few years ago, and I just remember just being so mind fucked by the idea that we can gaslight ourselves. And that's what this is. It's our intuition being gaslit by our disappointment. So stop gaslighting yourself and allow yourself to just be open to the possibility that this maybe possibly could be true, that this really could be real for you, and this really does have meaning behind it. And if you don't like it, you can go back to clenching with iron fists onto your control and your over hyper achievement, okay? But just try it. Just open yourself up to the possibility that this could be real. I literally don't believe in coincidences anymore. Like I fully have all faith in synchronicity and that everything plays out the way that it's supposed to. I literally think synchronicities are these vibrational echoes that reflect your inner world into your outer world. And like that's what doesn't make this woo woo. Because what shows up in our lives is a neutral experience, but then our intuition comes in and applies all of this meaning to it. And whatever meaning gets applied is based off of our own internal worth, whatever we think we deserve, whatever our inner experience is. If you want really badly to be in a relationship, you want to meet your soulmate, you want to meet your person, but you have this deep core rooted limiting belief that that's never actually going to happen, any synchronicity that you are given, you will apply the meaning of proof that that is not true, that that's not actually going to happen for you, and have all of the synchronicity meanings that confirm that belief. But even if you are skeptical, but deep down, deep rooted, you believe that you're genuinely going to meet that person one day, you will see the synchronicities as proof of that reality, that you'll think, "Ooh, wait, no, see, I think that might be true. I think that might be proof of that." You'll see it. That's why when you see things that you're like, come on, really? That was cool. I was just thinking about that. No way that just happened. It's proof, it's confirmation that your energy is in tune with what you're calling in. And because of that, you can't lose momentum. You can't lose faith. Like that is proof that it's happening because it's inside of you. And that's what you're seeing. And when you start aligning with what you desire, life starts flirting back with you. Again, not in this woo woo way. It's not like this magical thing that when you start to align, magical things start happening to align with you. It flirts back with you in the sense that you're recognizing it now. You see it now. You're able to follow the guidance that you intuitively know is there because you intuitively know it's meant for you. And I want to say too that I feel like there's a lot of fear, especially for achieving people like you and I, that receiving mode is passive and like kind of like letting go of the reins and giving up and never doing anything. And that's not true. It's just that you're softening up. Like you obviously still have to work and do the things that are in your control in order to create the reality that you want to create so that the big life shapers do come into your life, you know, but they come into your life when you surrender. And it's a softness and it's a trusting that what you're going to do will create the life that you are meant to live. It's you communicating, even if it's just with your higher self, that you are there and you're listening to the guidance that it's providing you. The signs have always been there and they always will be there. You don't have to do anything in order to make this happen. You don't have to force or create them in order to make it happen. If you're doing that, you're using your logic, you're not using your intuition, and you just hadn't seen them before because you weren't energetically available for it. But the more that you apply what we talked about today, you will become more energetically available and you'll allow yourself to get quiet enough so that you can actually hear the intuitive voices. I don't know how to word that without sounding like a freak, but like you'll eventually hear the intuition speak to you and you'll be able to take inspired action for it. You have to just trust yourself, dude. Like you have to trust what you feel before you have proof of it. You don't have to chase the signs. You just, like I said, have to get quiet enough for you to be able to hear your intuition. Okay, question of the week, guys. So this one says, "Hi, Sarah. Love the show. Thanks. I love you. My question is about falling off the wagon. I get so motivated to start a new habit, like journaling or a new fitness routine. I'll be super consistent for a week or two and everything feels great. But then one day I miss a session and that one mistake becomes two, then three. And before I know it, I've just given up. Instead of seeing it as a minor slip, I feel like I've completely failed and might as well quit. So, how do I shake that all or nothing mindset? What's the best way to get back on track after a mistake without letting the imperfection derail my entire effort?" Okay, I've got a couple things for you because this is me to the core. Okay, first of all, I want to tell you you're in luck because Thursday's episode with Ashley Jordan, she's the author of a book called Unhappy Achiever. She talks about this exact thing. So, you're in for a treat on there and you'll get like more insight through her. But my thing that I do every day, so a couple things that I've been implementing. One is I try to give myself a number in a month, like almost a percentage basis compared to doing things like, okay, I'm going to do this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example, that I'm going to say instead, I'm going to make sure I do this 3 times a week so that even if I fall off one day, it's no big deal for me to jump back on the next day. Now, that's not to say I don't still screw this up. And that leads me to my second point is that that's just kind of life. Like anything that doesn't make you feel good in your body isn't worth it. Like you have to do things with discipline in order to do right by you and allow that to be your motivation compared to like the thing itself being motivation. Like, how does journaling consistently make you feel? How does movement consistently make you feel? And being able to apply your habits in that direction, because in that sense, you're able to open it up to a little bit more freedom. Like, instead of saying, I'm going to do this exact strength training routine every single day for this amount of time, you say, I'm going to move my body because that makes me feel good. So maybe you don't do the strength training routine that day, but maybe you turn on a dance video on YouTube and you do that. And then you feel good because you just moved your body. And as long as you don't have obviously like a specific goal that you're trying to achieve, like using the fitness example, I always think of bodybuilding, like as long as you're not prepping for a show, obviously in that sense, you're going to have discipline, but that's different. It's these situations that you are, kind of just doing things because they make you feel good. And when they're not making you feel good because you're beating yourself up for not doing what you said you were going to do, it's not making you feel good. And that leads me into my third point is stop creating rules for yourself to follow just as an excuse for you to be self-rejecting, like for you to beat yourself up because you didn't follow the rules that you set for your own damn self. That makes absolutely no sense. And I say that from a place of love because I do the same exact thing and it just doesn't work. So allow yourself to find the deep rooted meaning of why it is that you want to achieve what you want to achieve and allow that why to be your motivator compared to maybe doing it for reasons that you think that you should or that you're not good enough now the way you are and so that's why you want to do these specific acts. Like I said though, we are going to be talking to Ashley Jordan this Thursday. It was actually an incredible conversation. She almost moved me to tears in a couple parts of it. There was some technical difficulties that we had at the beginning. Those aren't going to affect you, but at the end, her computer ended up dying, even after all the technical difficulty things that we had to get through. So we did get through the whole interview. It just cut off halfway through, kind of toxic, kind of well. So just be prepared for that at the very end. But it was really an absolutely incredible conversation. And if you are a person that feels like in order to ever achieve the life that you want to have, you have to be a doer and achieve all of these things and hustle to achieve all of these things, this episode is 1000% going to transform your life. So definitely tune in for that one. If you do have a question of the week or a story you'd like to share with me of your own, make sure to send that to me via DM at Wellish Podcast. That's both on Instagram and on TikTok. And then you can also follow me, message me, whatever on my personal. That's at sarah.rittendale. Thank you so much for being here. I love you guys immensely. And I will talk to you very soon. Bye.